Hey everyone, how y'all doing? Welcome or welcome back to my channel, and welcome to day 18 of Vlogmas. So today we're talking about some books that I would love to reread in 2021. I have a small stack of books here. I love rereading books, and these are just ones that I've been eyeing recently that I really want to reread, or just some that I meant to get to this year and I just didn't. Before we get into the video though, make sure to subscribe down below if you have not yet already. I am uploading a video every single day this month and you're not going to want to miss it. I'll also link my Vlogmas playlist up above in the cards if you guys want to go check out all the other videos if you've missed them. Let's just get right on into the video. So the first book I'm going to talk about today is The Last Time We Say Goodbye by Cynthia Hand. This is a book that for some reason I've been thinking a lot about recently and just wanting to reread. I don't know why, but I'm just feeling like a certain pull towards this book. This one is about our main character Lex and her boyfriend. Oh girl, no. And her brother has recently committed suicide and she hasn't really been happy since. So we basically just follow her. She's trying to piece her life back together now that she no longer has her brother, trying to not be known as the girl whose brother killed himself, but also trying to figure out what kind of led her brother to kill himself and kind of all of that. So obviously trigger warnings for suicide with this book. It is talked about quite a bit. So if you're going to pick this book up, just be cautious of that. But I just really enjoyed this book. Like I really connected to it. I believe I read it in, did I read it last year or did I read it in 2018? I feel like I might have read this book last year. Maybe, but I got a Snapchat memory from whenever I read it a couple of weeks ago and it was just me crying, which is lovely. I just remember really connecting to this book and being surprised by how much I enjoyed it. So this is something that I definitely want to reread, but obviously need to be in the right mindset to read about death. It is quite a heavy book, but I just really enjoyed it. So hopefully I can reread it next year and re-experience everything because I have a really bad memory. So a joy of rereading books for me is that I tend to forget a lot about what happened. And I don't remember a lot of details about this book. Like I remember a few key things, but not like individual scenes really, so I'm excited to reread it and rediscover this book. The next one is another sad book. I don't know why, but it is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I read this for the first time and the only time in, I believe, January of 2017, and I absolutely fell in love with it. It like tore my heart out and like pieced it back together again. It was such a good book, and I've been craving a reread of it for like the past couple of years, I think. I just never picked it up, and I had plans to reread it this year, but just plans changed and I never got to it. But I really want to reread it next year, and I'm hoping that I still love it as much as I did that first time, because I literally was obsessed with this book and I would try to throw it in all of my friends' faces. Like every time I went to the bookstore with my friend Leah, I would grab the book and give it to her, and every time she'd put it back on the shelf, and it hurt my soul a little bit every time. But I love this book. It's just so good. If you don't know what it's about, we basically follow our main character Griffin, and his ex-boyfriend Theo has recently passed away, and Griffin was always under the belief that him and Theo would get back together one day. He just kind of thought they were meant to be together, and so he kind of was taking their breakup as like a little intermission, like we're gonna get back together one day. But then of course he dies, and so that's not gonna happen. And so we open the book up at Theo's funeral, where Griffin meets Theo's current boyfriend Jackson, and they actually form this like unlikely friendship and bond because they are both the only ones who know what it's like to be loved and to be in love with Theo, and so they kind of bond over that and talk about their feelings with each other and kind of help each other grieve a little bit. And it is just such a beautiful story. I am obsessed with it, and so I'm really hoping that in 2021 I can get to rereading it, because honestly I want my heart to be broken all over again. And also I tabbed this book really weirdly, so I think I want to re-tab parts of it because I used actual post-it notes at the end here because I ran out of tabs and it bothers me. So I also want to re-tab this book, but I just love it so much, and so I'm really looking forward to rereading it and having my heart shattered again. It's great fun. And the next book that I really want to reread in 2021 is How to Love by Katie Katukno. This is a book I read back in maybe also 2017 or 2018. Whenever Everything came out is when I read this book, because I picked it up in chapters while me and my friend were waiting for our showing of Everything, and I just saw it on the sales table and I sat down and started to read it. And then by the time our showing for the movie was coming around, I had already read half of this book, and so I was like, well, I guess I have to buy it. So I was just like completely enamored by this book and just read it so quickly. I think I finished it that day, like when I got home. It was just such a good book, and I've been dying to reread it for like the past year or so. I don't really remember too much about this book. I know it's in two different timelines. We followed the before and the after. So in the before, we follow our main character Rena, as I guess she is kind of falling in in love with her boyfriend Sawyer, and she kind of like has always had a crush on him, but then magically she starts to like her back. They end up getting into a relationship, and then he randomly disappears, and Rena finds out that she is pregnant with his child, but she doesn't know where he's gone. And then in the after is when she already has the kid. It's 3 years later, so she has a daughter named Hannah, and then randomly Sawyer comes back into their lives, just completely randomly. He comes back home, and they kind of have to navigate this together now, and it's a really, really interesting book. Obviously, like I said, I have never reread this book. I read it years ago, so I don't know if I'm still gonna like it. I'm hoping that I do, because I really liked it when I first read it, but I hope that I still love it, and I really liked the way that it was told with the before and the after. I want to read more books that are like that because I really like dual timelines, so hopefully I can get to this in 2021 because I really want to reread it. The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. So I first read this book in 2017, and then I reread it last year so I could read the entire series, which I did, and I adored it like so much. I'm like obsessed with the series, obsessed with the cast of characters. I genuinely wanted to reread the series right after finishing it, but I had to display some self-control and read the other books on my TBR at the time. So many times this year I felt like picking it up, but I just didn't feel like I had the time to reread a 4-book series when I had so many new books to read. So I haven't picked this series up, but I really want to re-experience all the little character moments in the series, and honestly I think that I like the series more every time I read it, because the first time I read this book I was like, yeah, that was enjoyable, I will continue on with the series, but I wasn't obsessed. And then the second time I read this book I was obsessed with it right away. Like, there are so many little tabbies in this book because I was just obsessed with it. And I also want to tab the rest of the books because I only owned this one at the time, so I was borrowing the other ones from the library or from a friend, so I obviously couldn't tab them. I'm very excited to see how many tabs the other books get, but this is just such a bingeable, fun series if you don't know what it's about. It's kind of hard to explain because it's definitely more character driven than plot driven. So we follow our main character, Blue, and she's been told her entire life that she is gonna kill her true love by kissing him, I think. Oh, I don't know how to explain this series. I literally I'm thinking about it. There's things about the Raven Boys, who are these boys who go to this like private school, and they all end up becoming friends, and Gansey, who's one of the Raven Boys, is like trying to find this like old Welsh king named Glendower, and it's a really confusing series. Like, I don't understand it most of the time. I just really like the characters. So that was a really bad description, but I genuinely don't know how to describe this book. But I love these characters and I just want to re-experience it so badly, and so hopefully I can get to doing a reread of it in 2021 because I miss my baby so much. The next one, I don't know if I'm going to reread the entire series because it's a 7-book series, but we will have to see. But definitely I want to read the first book of the Soul Screamer series by Rachel Vincent. So the first book is My Soul to Take. This is the first volume, so it has the first 2 books and like a little prequel story. I might read the novellas and short stories that are in these volumes because when I reread this series in 2018 I didn't read them because I just wanted to read the main books, but maybe I'll just read everything this time around. But I love this series. It was one of my favorites when I was like an early teenager, and then I reread it in 2018. Well, I think maybe in 2017 I started my reread, but then I finished my reread in 2018 and I was just absolutely obsessed with it. Like, I love this series so much. It's like a paranormal, supernatural kind of series. We follow our main character Kaylee, and every time somebody is about to die she lets out this like ear-crushing scream, and she doesn't understand why. And then she finds out when she starts hanging out with this guy named Nash from school that she is a banshee, I believe. So she can basically like tell when somebody's about to die, and she like has to let out the scream or like whatever. It's really interesting. That was a terrible description, but I am just completely obsessed with this series, and I wanted to reread it this year, like all year long, and I'm just like, no, Brittany, like you cannot commit to rereading a 7-book series when you have so many other books on your TBR. So I've had to show quite a bit of self-control this year by not rereading the series, but I really, really want to. So hopefully at some point this year I can pick it up because I feel like it's been long enough since my last reread that it's like about time to pick it up again, especially since it's been a long time since I've read the first 3 books because I might have read those either in 2016 or 2017 before I finished the reread of the series in 2018. But this series is like your trashy early YA kind of feel, but I just love the characters, I love the story, I love the drama and the tension and the relationships in this series. They're just like next level in my opinion, and I am so excited to reread the series again because it holds a special place in my heart. Like, I have such fond memories with this series, so hopefully I can get to rereading this one as well. And then the last one is another one that I read like around the same time as Soul Screamers. I think I read this one first, but it is The Summoning by Kelly Armstrong. This is the first book in the Darkest Powers trilogy, and I would like to read this and maybe also the companion series, the Darkness Rising trilogy, but I'm just focused focus on this one first and for this video. So this was like my favorite series when I was 12. I was obsessed with it. I would constantly reread it, constantly was thinking about it. I just literally loved it to like no end. But I have not reread it, I think maybe since 2014. It's been a really long time and I just adore it so much that like I want to reread it. I don't really know how to describe this book, but we basically follow our main character Chloe, and all of a sudden she starts to see ghosts everywhere. She finds out that she is a necromancer and all these like crazy things happen. Her life kind of gets turned upside down. She meets some other like supernatural people. She meets like a warlock and a werewolf, I think, and it's just a really interesting, fun series. But I genuinely don't remember like anything from this series. I think I remember one scene from the very beginning of the third book, but besides that I don't really remember much. And I just know that I loved this series, and so I'm kind of hesitant to reread it because I'm like, what if I don't love it as much? But I'm hoping it's a similar situation to Soul Screamers, where I do still love it, because this series just means so much to me, because it was like one of like the first YA books that I was completely obsessed with, that has stuck with me, that has stayed on my bookcase, because a lot of the books from that time I've taken off my shelf to fit newer books, but this is one that is just a staple of my bookcase, and so I'm really excited to reread it and to talk about it with you guys. I'm just like a huge fan of paranormal books and supernatural books, and that's what this is, and so I'm very excited to reread it, and hopefully I can get to it soon. Like, I think this is one that I might have to reread like in the first few months of the year, because I am desperate for a reread of the series at this point. So those are like the main books that I want to reread in 2021. I'm sure I'm going to reread like a million other books, but those are just the ones that I'm going to make like an effort to reread. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a huge thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Comment down below a red heart emoji if you guys stayed till the very end. And maybe also comment some books that you want to read in 2021, because I would love to know. Subscribe if you have not yet already, because like I said at the very beginning of the video, I am uploading a video every single day this month and you're not going to want to miss it. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye!